2095. Beyond the Human. Press the up key to start a new game. Press the right key to resume the game. Press the left key to open the credits. Press the down key to exit the game. Year 2095. Due to the sharp increase in pollution and global warming, humans have managed to find a way to survive without their human body. It was possible to copy and insert the brain data of each individual within a powerful system, called the net. To move in the external world, every human being now uses a cybernetic body. One night, however, an unexpected event upsets the order established by the net. A cyborg is found with no more digital memory, as if the latter had been completely erased from the system. The UID. Union of Digital Intelligences, an organ made up of the minds of the main rulers of the planet, with the aim of identifying which threat is afflicting the system, hires Axel Reeves, the most experienced investigator on the face of the earth, in absolute secret. The investigation that will determine the future of all human lives is about to begin. Reeves' apartment. The apartment is full of big tangled cables, various cybernetic components scattered on the floor, and piles of documents piled on the desk. A dim neon light illuminates the house. Power cell. Untied floor. UV shower. Apartment door. Power untied floor. UV shower. The detective's body is covered in debris and rust. Maybe he'd better take a shower before leaving his house. Apartment door. Reeves approaches the exit of the apartment, but immediately he realizes that his body is in dire condition. He has everything he needs to get back on his feet at home. Power cell. Reeves needs to recharge his body with the energy cell, but he needs a cerebral cable. It must be among the junk scattered on the floor. Until the shower seems to have worked, now Reeves' cybernetic body is more clean than ever. Untied floor. The cable lies submerged by numerous components on the floor. Reeves promises himself to fix them every day, but the detective and the order don't get along. Reeves looks at the junk on the floor, and the thought of tidying up brushes his mind, but now he has no time for it. Power cell. Reeves connects to the cell, and electrical energy pervades his body, completely invigorating the detective. The detective has already recharged his body. He no longer needs to use the cell. Apartment door. Now that his body and circuits are as good as new, Reeves can leave the house to get his new assignment. Netlink Square. The small and almost forgotten plaza of Descartes Street. Most it's the rain and the neon signs of the bars that visit her every day. Neon Market. Neural Terminal. Laboratory and Neural Terminal. In the center of the square, under the imposing mankind statue, there's the fastest neural terminal on Descartes Street. Reeves usually accesses it every morning, given the high number of assignments he receives every day. The detective's attention falls on an assignment from the UID, which instructs Reeves to go to the furnace to recover the cyborg without digital memory. Now that he knows his next assignment, the detective no longer needs to consult the terminal. Laboratory entrance. The entrance to Reeves' laboratory, where he usually studies and examines technological materials. At this moment Reeves has no reason to enter, so he decides to consult Neural Terminal. Floating car. An old Philip K from 2049. Aesthetically it's not the same as the vehicles that are popular now, but it still drives considerable distances, and Reeves doesn't pay too much attention to aesthetics. At the moment the detective doesn't need to drive it. Rusty Road. Mankind statue. Neon Market. Along the whole square there's the Descartes Street shopping area, a mixture of neon signs and stalls. A crowd of cyborgs flock to buy the most varied products, from batteries for charging cells, to ornaments for their own body and even artificial animals. Along the whole square there's the Descartes Street shopping area, Neural Terminal Neon Mankind statue, a huge statue representing a human body, composed of cybernetic material and illuminated by blue and violet neon lights. It was built short after the passage of humanity to cybernetic bodies. Looking at it, Reeves thinks back to the now distant sensor perceptions that man had to abandon to continue his life, reflecting whether it can still be defined as such. A huge statue Rusty Road. Of all the places imaginable, Reeves would not have expected to have to go right in this street, but it is the only way to reach the furnace. The old cyborg fusion and disposal plant in ruins in the industrial area of Descartes Street. The building is in an almost ruinous condition. The metal of which it is made is of primitive alloy that recalls the color of rust. The strong heat permeates the air and the circuits of anyone who sets foot there. Hot tanks. Big rusty door. The exit from the furnace consists of huge copper-colored door and a huge rusty handle. Reeves turns his back on the exit and sets out in search of a body he needs to recover. Hot tanks. In the furnace, cyborgs' bodies are melted into huge cisterns of lava, which boils hot throughout the structure. Reeves tries to touch the surface of tank, but the heat emitted is so strong as to risk the melting of some of his components. Melting cell. It's the hottest cell in the furnace. This is where cybernetic bodies meet their end. Being completely sealed on the outside, it is impossible to open it without melting cell card. Hydroid. The only cyborg that still wanders in the old furnace. Its components are primitive, but it's one of the most feared and massive cyborgs on all Descartes Street. The cyborg unleashes his flamethrower on Reeves, who almost risks the melting of his own body, but, being able to cleverly dodge the flames, manages to knock down the opponent and crush his head. Looting the remains of a guardian, Reeves notices a magnetic card with melting cell written on it and collects it. Looking at the remains of a fire droid one last time, Reeves feels a modicum of remorse. Even if eliminating cyborgs has almost become a habit, the detective never got used to the idea of having to do it, even if the mission required it. Looking at melting cell, the door of a cell opens and reveals the bodies of the poor unfortunates who no longer need them, including the cyborg without digital memory, which is taken by the detective. The cell contains only the remains of hot cybernetic bodies, but nothing that could be useful to Reeves. The ladder closes the hatch, leaving the artificial corpses to their fate. Hot big rusty door. The detective is ready to leave that sultry place and opens the door, retracing Rusty Road backwards. Netlink's Neon Market, Neural to laboratory entrance. Neural. Now that he knows his next assignment, the detective no longer needs to consult the terminal. Laboratory. The detective enters the laboratory to examine the cyborg without digital memory. Research lab. The facility where Reeves carries out his research related to cybernetics. There are numerous work shelves, with computers on top, cybernetic components, and laser machinery, used by the detective in the most varied ways. Search terminal. Laboratory exit. Search terminal. A terminal consisting of sensor to analyze an technological device, and a holographic screen, which analyzes its properties. Reeves must first extract the memory chip from the cyborg's body in order to get some information from it. A terminal consisting of sensor to analyze an technological device, and a holographic screen, with laboratory. Before exiting the lab, Reeves must obtain some useful data from the newly recovered cyborg. Components showcase. The left wall of the laboratory is filled with limbs and complex cybernetic components of various types, some of which came from previous detective missions. Reeves often spends his days off to modify such components or build new ones. Laser capsule. Laboratory exit. Laser capsule. A man-sized capsule with sensors inside that emit laser beams, effective on any type of material. Reeves inserts the cyborg without digital memory into it, and takes out its memory chip. The capsule has done its job perfect. Now Reeves no longer needs to use it. Component: the left wall of the laboratory is filled with research terminal. The sensor analyzes the memory chip, while the holo screen displays the date contained within it, among which there's the place from which the aforementioned chip was terminated. The headquarters of the police, Cable Fortress, more precise the server room. After obtaining the information he needs, the detective turns off the terminal and decides to head to his car in Netlink Square. Laboratory exit. Reeves exits the lab, ready to head to his new destination. Netlink Square. The small and almost forgotten plaza of Descartes Street. Most lit neon along the whole square. There's the Descartes Street shopping area, a mixture of neon signs and stalls. A crowd of cyborgs flock to buy the most varied product. Neural terminal. Now that he knows his elaborate floating car, the Philip K is now ready to take off and leave Descartes Street once again. Reeves, after defeating the fearsome fibroid in the furnace, brought the cyborg he recovered in his laboratory. By analyzing his memory chip, the detective was able to trace the location of the hack. Cable Fortress. The impregnable fortress is the headquarters of law enforcement, manned by armored cyborgs equipped with lethal high-tech weapons. Men have tried to infiltrate it, but no one has ever made it out alive. Cable Fortress entrance. The entrance to the fortress consists of huge dazzling gate. From here it's possible to see the enormous size of the fort which, rising massive and bright, proves to be one of the most dangerous and avant-garde places in the city. Floating car. Control panel. Next to the gate, there's the panel that controls its power supply. However, its deactivation requires an access code. Next to the floating car, the Philip K is in a power state, waiting for the flight to the next destination. Alienated cyborg. An armored cyborg from the police is seated at the side of the entrance.
Who are you? I'm lost in my circuits. I think I love you, brother.
He seems to be in a daze, as he keeps babbling confused. An armored cyborg from the police is seated at the side of the entrance.
Who are you?
Electrified control panel. The huge electrified gate stands in front of the entrance. A single touch would be enough to complete overload Reeves circuits. Next to it there's a control panel, which perhaps can disable the device. The huge electric control. Next to the gate, there's the panel that controls its power supply. However, its deactivation requires an access code. Float alienated cyborg. The cyborg, in his confused shouting, reveals the gate access code, also hinting something about his aversion to the job he performs. But it is real difficult to understand anything of what he is saying. The cyborg, in his confused shouting, reveals the gate access code, also hinting something about his aversion to the job he performs. But it is real difficult to understand anything of what he is saying. Electrified gate. The huge electrified gate stands in front of the entrance. A single touch would be enough. Control panel. Reeves enters the code obtained from the bizarre cyborg, managing to deactivate the dangerous gate. The code has already been entered, the panel has already performed its function. Flow alienated. The cyborg is in a state of total alteration. He seems to have no more knowledge of time and space. Despite this, Reeves thanks him before he leaves. The cyborg is in a state of total alteration. Electrified gate. The electrical wall that pervaded the gate has now completely vanished, finally allowing Reeves to enter the fortress. Command center. The main hall of Cable Fortress is empty and silent, except for the noise of the surveillance cameras and the laser turrets placed on the opposite side of the entrance, protecting the server room. Surveillance area. Fortress exit. Surveillance fortress. Before exiting the fortress, the detective must enter the server room and obtain information on the identity of the hacker. Surveillance area. Iron Lion. In the center of the vast hall there is a large bright red hologram representing the symbol of Cable Fortress, the head-of roaring iron lion. Cable Fortress was founded short after the advent of Cyberpunk to deal with the crimes of cyborgs that normal police force could no longer cope with. In the center of the vast hall there is a large bright red hologram representing the symbol of Cable Fortress, the head of roaring iron lion. Cable Farmer area. Surveillance cameras. The ultraviolet cameras of Cable Fortress are avant-garde. Even a very rapid movement of Reeves could set off the alarm. It's better to disable them before continuing. Server area. Laser-armed turrets. The turrets of Cable Fortress are equipped with two powerful cannons of the latest generation. A single shot of their laser can reduce even the most resistant cybernetic envelope to ashes. Perhaps, inside the fortress, it is possible to find a weapon that can put them out of use and make Reeves continue. The turrets of Cable Fortress are equipped with two powerful cannons of the latest generation. A single fortress exit. Surveillance area. Iron Lion. Armor area. Surveillance cameras. The ultraviolet cameras of Cable Fortress are avant-garde. Even a very rapid movement of Reeves could set off the alarm. It's better to disable them before continuing. Armor area. Reeves enters the armor. Maybe here the detective can find a powerful weapon to disintegrate the turrets. Armory. The Cable Fortress armor is equipped with the most varied armaments, each neat arranged in its own compartment. Every 10 seconds there is a series of mechanical arms that assemble a complete new weapon, combining the numerous modules available to the fortress. Such an arsenal in the wrong hands would be enough to start a war. Assembly line. Module storage. In a corner of the armor there is a section dedicated to the modules with which weapons can be equipped. The detective's attention falls on the laser module, which is collected by him. The laser module is more than enough for the rifle's power. Reeves doesn't need different modules. The laser module assembly line. The detective observes the series of machinery used for the construction of the weapon. It is impressive the extreme speed with which the cybernetic arms are able to assemble so many different weapons in so few seconds. Weapon storage. Armor exit. Weapon storage. Reeves observes the numerous high-tech weapons supplied to the fortress. Among them stands out a rifle model Jensen 2087, consisting of long-range and very manageable gun. It is possible to equip it with a module that alters its fire properties. Reeves already has a very powerful weapon. He no longer needs to look for others. Assembly line. The detective observes the series of machinery used for the construction of the weapon. It is impressive the extreme speed with which the cybernetic arms are modules to the laser armor exit. Reeves comes out of the armor holding his new rifle, ready to open fire on an obstacle that appears in front of him. Command surveillance area. Iron Lion armor area. Surveillance cameras. Server area. Armor Iron Lion surveillance area. The detective enters the video surveillance room, where he can disable all cameras. Surveillance room. The room is most dark, lit only by the screens showing the command center camera view. The screens are regulated by a surveillance terminal, which is guarded by a dangerous armored cyborg. Surveillance photo screens. Surveillance area exit. Before returning to the command center, Reeves must disable all cameras. Surveillance photo screens. The right wall of the room is dotted with holographic screens, which show every corner of the room captured by video cameras. It's a miracle that Reeves didn't let himself be discovered a while ago. The right wall of the room is dotted with holographic screens, with surveillance terminal. The terminal that regulates the power supply of the cameras is blocked by an armored cyborg. Reeves has to get rid of him in order to deactivate it. The terminal at Laser Blade Cyborg. Surveillance area exit. Laser Blade Cyborg. An armored cyborg of modest size, but despite this, he seems very agile. It's armed with laser blades, so sharp that it can cut a limb only after a few strokes. The cyborg quick attacks the detective with his lethal blade. Never before has Reeves ever faced a cyborg so fast. Despite being almost cornered, the detective fires a precise shot in the cyborg's head, frying the main circuits. The remains of a headless cyborg lie on the ground. Reeves certainly had to deal with a worthy opponent. Surveillance terminal. The terminal can now be disabled, making the command center cameras completely blind. The cameras are completely disabled. The detective no longer needs to access the terminal. Laser blade surveillance. Reeves exits the room, leaving behind the remains of a cyborg officer. Command surveillance area. Iron Lion armor area. Surveillance cameras. Now the cameras are deactivated, and there's no danger of the alarm going off. The laser turret is the last obstacle to Reeves' continuation. Now the cameras are deactivated. Server area. Laser armed turrets. The turrets, detecting Reeves approaching, begin to load their guns, preparing to hit the cyborg. The latter, however, manages to land a well-placed blow with the Jensen 2087, managing to instantly disintegrate them. The detective, final, can continue to the server room without further problems. The turrets are reduced to rubble and no longer pose a danger to the detective. Server area. Now that the entrance to the server area is no longer guarded, Reeves can head undisturbed to his next target. Server room. A huge room dotted with terminals, computers and holographic screens containing an exorbitant number of data. However, all systems depend on the Gen server, which stands in the center of the room. The sphere. Server room exit. Before exiting, the detective must use the main server to find out the identity of the hacker. The sphere. Made up of huge luminescent sphere and connected to an infinite amount of cables, the cable fortress generator supplies electricity to the entire fortress. Made up of huge luminescent sphere and connected to an infinite amount of cables, the cable fortress generator supplies electricity to the entire fortress. Only a pioneering company could build such a technological marvel. The Nexus brand is stamped on the sphere. Gen server. Made up of huge cybernetic column, the main cable fortress server is connected by long cables to all computers and terminals in the room. By examining it, Reeves manages to obtain the name of the person responsible for the hacker attack, Michael Paxton, who works at the Nexus company in the ship city of New Olympia. The detective would like to continue testing the power of such an advanced server, but time is running out, and Reeves decides to leave the fortress immediately. Data graveyard. Around the main server, there is an expanse of smaller servers, each of which handles different types of data at an impressive speed. The arrangement of the structures resembles that of tombstones in a cemetery. Server room exit. The sphere, made up of huge luminescent sphere and connected to an infinite amount of server room. Having obtained the necessary information, Reeves exits the server room to return to command center, where however an unpleasant surprise awaits him. Command center. The main hall of Cable Fortress is empty and silent, except for the noise of the surveillance cameras and the laser turrets placed on the opposite side of the entrance, protecting the server room. Surveillance area. Iron Lion armor area. Surveillance cameras. Server area. Laser armed turrets. Fortress exit. 3 armored cyborgs stand between Reeves and the exit of the fortress. They open fire without even giving the detective a chance to surrender. Thanks to the laser shots well shot by the detective, the remains of the armored cyborgs lie on the ground. Reeves can make his way to the exit before reinforcements arrive. Cable Fortress entrance. The entrance to the fortress consists of huge dazzling gate. From here it is possible to see the enormous size of the fort which, rising massive and bright, proves to be one of the most dangerous and avant-garde places in the city. Floating car. Alienated cyborg. The cyborg is in a state of total alteration. He seems to have no more knowledge of time and space, despite flow control and the code have already. Floating Reeves turns on the Philip K and prepares to whiz toward New Olympia. It will be a tiring journey, given the altitude of the ship city. The detective managed to survive Cable Fortress, evading its security systems and neutralizing every cyborg that stood in front of him, Accessing the main server, Reeves traced the name of Michael Paxton, an employee of a well-known multinational Nexus, located in the ship town of New Olympia. It is the most advanced metropolis on the planet, and is home to numerous high-class neighborhoods, including Nexus City, the source of the most cutting-edge technology there is. The detective, although aware that he is going to commit suicide, is determined to go through with this intense investigation. New Olympia Heliport. The docking point for the New Olympia City ship. The heliport is huge and features a variety of impressive vehicles, including cargo ships, luxury vehicles, and even some Nexus-owned vehicles. Floating car. Nexus Roy 85. Parked among the huge array of vehicles, this huge jet belongs to the Nexus. Reeves breaks into the cockpit and, searching inside, finds a Nexus identification card. Reeves takes a look at the majestic aircraft. If this is just the airport, it doesn't dare to imagine what technological marvels are hidden behind the gate. Reeves takes a look at the floating car. The Philip K made a formidable flight to reach such an impressive altitude. Now it is in the power state. Unknown NX device. A mysterious capsule bearing the initials NX. Is that particular technology of Nexus? Either way, it doesn't seem to work in any way. Adams Gate. Nexus Roy 85. Unknown Adams Gate. The detective puts the ID card near the panel. His body is enveloped by an electromagnetic field for few seconds, enough to pass the gate to enter the large main street of New Olympia. Adam Street. The main street of New Olympia is a mixture of lights and huge buildings, including nightclubs, large companies, and luxurious homes, while the Great Street is crossed by numerous cyborgs looking for the best way to experience the night. Olympus Skyline. Nexus City. At the end of Adam Street is the vast financial district of the most important company in existence, Nexus. The heart of the company is the headquarters, which can be accessed by Nexus Square. Nexus Square. It's the square in front of the huge Nexus headquarters. In the center there is a luminous fountain, in which there is a hologram in the form of woman. There is a huge ultra-resistant sliding glass door. The most important companies in New Olympia have state-of-the-art materials and devices practically unavailable in another city. Nexus Security Door. Adam Street. Reeves must find a way to infiltrate the headquarters. He has no time to visit the city, even if curiosity tempts him out of all proportion. Nexus Security Door. The entrance to the headquarters consists of a huge door of material similar to glass, but much more resistant. Probably Reeves' rifle would not even be able to scratch it. It seems that access is regulated by an identification panel next to the door. The identity. It appears that Nexus membership is needed to gain access to the company, but there do not appear to be employees of the company nearby. It appears that Blue Woman, an electric blue hologram with the likeness of young woman, as Reeves approaches her, the hologram, in a calm and relaxed voice, warns the detective that the staff are currently hosting a company party at the Neon Wave nightclub on Adam Street. An electric blue hologram with the likeness of young woman, as Reeves approaches her, the hologram, in a calm and relaxed voice. Nexus buildings. Around the central square there are all the most important offices of Nexus City. It seems that each building deals with a different task, from research and development to actual product testing. Adam Street. Nexus Security. Adam Street. Thanks to the information obtained from the hologram, Reeves sets off at the Neon Wave Club. Adam's Olympus Skyline. Looking at the horizon, Reeves admires the huge luminous skyscrapers of New Olympia, made up of majestic and indescribable architectural structures, a mixture of Greek temples and modern buildings made up of numerous and varied floors. Compared to worn Descartes Street, it feels like a paradise on Earth, or almost. Looking at the Pulse Corner, Fastlight Station. The entire street is crossed by a very modern tramway, consisting of very high-speed public vehicles called Fastlight. It almost seems to reach the speed of light by covering very long distances in a matter of seconds. Cyborg Merchant. Night projections. Holograms representing actors, advertisements and shows of all kinds are continuously projected from the tallest buildings on the street. Now terrestrial entertainment is obtainable only through the use of these devices. It is not comparable to the ear of human bodies, but it is the best alternative there is these days. Cyborg Merchant.
Hi there, stranger.
Near a gloomy alley, Reeves notices a cyborg with chromed and particular components talking to passers-by about certain goods that cannot be purchased in the conventional market. Even if it piques his curiosity, now is not the time to buy new toys to examine in the laboratory.
Hi there, stranger. Hi there, stranger.
Near a gloomy alley, Reeves notices a cyborg with chromed and particular components talking to passers-by about certain goods that cannot be purchased in the conventional market. Even if it piques his curiosity, now is not the time to buy new toys to examine in the laboratory. Night Nexus Olympus Skylight Pulse Corner. In search of Nexus employee, Reeves delves into the bright and deafening chaos of a Neon Wave Club. Neon Wave Club. The most famous and popular nightclub in New Olympia. The interior is characterized by psychedelic lights and techno music that echoes in every corner of the club. The ideal place to get away from an exhausting day as a company employee. Nexus Employer. Neon Exit. Mr. Wave. Neon Exit. Before leaving the club, the detective must locate a Nexus employee. Mr. Wave. A bizarre cyborg with shimmering gold plating, he is the manager and owner of a Neon Wave. He informs the detective about one of the specialties of his club, Virtua Joy, defining it as the best way to escape from this crap of reality, with the possibility of accessing virtual fantasies and sharing them with other customers. But men also prefer solitude in a virtual reality. A bizarre cyborg with shimmering gold, Virtua Joy. Reeves stretches out and connects to the cables of a light screen, starting a sort of hallucinogenic trip that alters the detective's circuits, causing him to lose almost total control of his actions. The detective is still stunned by the effects of Virtua Joy. However particular and exciting, the detective will not repeat this experience for some time, but he wonders where to find such a device to keep in his home. Mr. Wave, a bizarre cyborg with shimmering gold plating, he is the manager and owner of a Nexus employer. The Nexus cyborg wakes up from his virtual fantasy, disturbed by the intrusion of Reeves. He too is in a state of total alteration and lashes out at the detective, starting a violent fight. Despite the detective's state of total intoxication, the latter manages to land dead blows to the opponent, eventually decapitating him. The body of the employee lies headless under the lights of a dance floor. Mr. Wave.
Ha 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 ha.
Mr. Wave seems amused by the combat and violence that Reeves and the other cyborg have offered the Neon Wave. Thanking Reeves for the show, he informs him that from Adam Street it is possible to access the cyborg black market, the ideal place to dismember a skull of that type. Mr. Wave is currently busy fixing the mess caused by the fight between Reeves and the other cyborgs. Even if the fight amused him, now he has to get back to work and make the place as good as new. Virtua Joy the detective is still stunned by Miss Neon, and now that he knows where to go, the detective returns to Adam Street in search of a cyborg black market. Adam Street Olympus Sky Pulse Car Fastlight to Cyborg Merchant. Seeing the detective with the skull clutched in his hands, the cyborg, without saying a word, enters the narrow alley, beckoning the detective to follow him, which Reeves does without thinking too much. The black market of cyborgs. At the end of the alley, and using a hidden elevator, you can reach a huge underground plant, made up of shelves full of the most varied cybernetic components, many of which are repaired and recycled by noisy and antiquated machinery. The low light and the menacing gaze of a cyborg merchant almost intimidate the detective. Exoskeletons. Merchant of the alley. The merchant, after taking Reeves to his base of operations, advises the detective to go and talk to his boss, who is behind the main counter of a huge factor. The merchant, after exoskeletons near the entrance there is a huge glass case, in which precious exoskeletons of different shapes and materials are exhibited. If Reeves ever gets tired of his current body now he knows where to find a viable alternative. Near the entrance near the entrance there is a huge glass case, in which precious exoskeletons of different shapes and materials are exhibited. If Reeves ever gets tired of his current body now he knows where to find a viable alternative. Near the entrance there is a huge glass case, in which precious technological above one of the numerous shelves full of technological drafts, there is a metallic black EMP arm that attracts the attention of the detective. Taking it in hand, Reeves notices an EMP module inserted in the palm of his hand. First it would be better to ask a merchant for information. Above one of the numerous shelves full of technological drafts, there is a metallic black EMP arm that attracts the attention of a detective. Taking it in hand, Reeves notices an EMP module inserted in the palm of his hand. First it would be better to ask a merchant for information. Above one of the the master merchant. A cyborg made up of components from different eras, he is New Olympia's most notorious and experienced merchant. His tone is threatening, but when it comes to business he can also be very friendly and trustworthy. The rough merchant, using a small and precise laser device, manages to extract the Nexus memory chip from the cyborg head. He realizes what Reeves' intentions are towards Nexus and decides not to charge him for the service. He also informs the detective that the company has powerful fighting androids and that, if he wishes, he can sell him a powerful weapon to counter them. He seems to speak of the Nexus with some contempt. After wishing the detective good luck on his mission, Edium resumes examining particular components never seen before by Reeves. The detective thinks that in the future he could do business with this extravagant merchant again. Technological drafts area. Reeves asks Edium if he could buy the EMP arm and the latter, asking for the detective's rifle in exchange, transplants the new arm into the cyborg's body. Reeves is now fully equipped to take on the Nexus androids. On the shelves the detective notices particular drafts of each type, but believes that the new arm is more than sufficient as an upgrade. On the shelf Edium, after wishing the detective good luck on his merchant of exoskeletons near the entrance there is a huge merchant of the L. Edium orders the merchant to escort the detective out of the factor and the two set out again along that narrow L. Adam Street. The main street of New Olympia, Olympus Skyline, Nexus City. Reeves returns to Nexus City, hoping to finally gain access to the main office. Nexus Square, Nexus Security Door, Adam Street, Nexus. The entrance to the headquarters consists of huge door of materials. By inserting the Nexus memory chip into the panel, Reeves is able to unlock the huge impenetrable door. Now the detective can access the huge Nexus headquarters. Nexus security door. Reeves logged in via the panel. Now he can access the huge Nexus headquarters. Nexus Hall. A large hall dotted with immense holographic screens, which exhibit the greatest inventions made over the years by Nexus, such as its division of androids, flying vehicles, and high-tech equipment. NX Teleport. Herman Nexus statue. In the center of the hall there's a huge statue of Herman Nexus, the billionaire founder of a company who, decades ago, sensed the inadequacy of the human body and used all the resources he had to produce the first prototypes of cybernetic bodies. In the center of the hall NX exhibition androids, holographic panel Herman Nexus statue, NX teleport, exhibition androids. Around the hall there is a long line of exhibition androids. The detective is blown away by the disarming similarity between the features of these models and those of human body, reflecting on how incredibly advanced and experimental Nexus is in the production of artificial bodies. Around the hall holographic panel, On one of the hall's manhole screens, Reeves locates the map of the building, thus discovering the location of the Paxton office in Block NXA, but there are no stairs or elevators to go up. The Nexus must have come up with some tricks to move from floor to floor. The detective has already consulted the map of the office, now he can go to the teleport. Herman Nexus statue. In the center of the hall, the next teleport. Block NXA is currently not accessible, so Reeves chooses the block below, NXB, as the target. A series of pulses pervades Reeves' circuits, instantly materializing him. NXB floor. The Nexus NXB block is the real engine of the company. There are huge machines that ceaselessly manufacture high-tech components. There are also numerous capsules containing luminescent fluids and high-risk substances, essential for Nexus products, and, final, there are also containment cells that house the infamous and advanced Nexus androids. NX Teleport B. Plasma Generator. At the bottom of the block there is an advanced plasma generator. On the right side of the machine there is a cylindrical hole. Reeves does not currently have an object that can be inserted. At the bottom of the block there is an advanced plasma generator. On the right side of the machine there is a cylindrical hole. NX Teleport Panel. NX Guardian, Plasma Generator, NX Teleport, NX Guardian. The threatening synthetic shatters the containment cell and exits with a lightning bolt. The reactors along his body are now active, and his eyes light up a scarlet red, a look that inspires fear in the detective, who, finding himself in front of being never seen before, he begins to think that that place could become his grave. After a long and tiring fight, in which he miraculously manages to avoid the plasma rays, the detective manages to disable the android thanks to a discharge from his new EMP arm. Reeves then collects the cylindrical object, which appears to be the casing of Fuse. The android lying on the ground is frightening, similar to a human corpse. The detective resurfaces memories of how his work once was. He remembers the first time he had to kill, and he reflects on the subtle difference between the end of human life and the end of an artificial one. The android lying on the plasma generator. NX Teleport Panel. NX Plasma Generator. NX Guardian. Teleport NX Plasma Generator. Reeves inserts the fuse into the generator, which manages to power it complete. It could be the key to accessing the NXA block. The fuse has already been powered. The generator no longer serves any purpose for the detective. The Fuse NX Teleport B. It seems that, from this floor, it is not possible to move to the higher one. Near the cockpit there is a panel that regulates the teleportation functions. It seems that, from teleport panel, Reeves inserts the fuse into the panel. Perhaps now it is possible to finally access the upper floor. The fuse has already been inserted. All the detective has to do is enter the teleport's cockpit. After inserting the fuse, the option to access Block NXA has now appeared on the screen inside the passenger compartment. The detective dematerializes again, and his particles are reassembled in the upper floor. NXA floor. The NXA block has a large hall guarded by the most efficient and dangerous Nexus androids. Around NX Teleport A, NX Berserkers. Cybersecurity Sector. Employee Offices. Power Panel. NX Teleport A. Power Panel. On the left side of the floor, there is a power panel for the androids since, using their weapons, the androids of this block consume more energy than the other models. The detective can try to use it to increase the energy of his EMP arm, if necessary. On the left side of the floor, Employee Offices. Cybersecurity Sector. NX Berserkers. NX Teleport A. NX Berserkers. Guarding the floor are 3 armored and heavy armed androids. In addition to the reactors on the chest, they also have arms capable of taking the shape of weapon, thus adapting to any fighting style. At their full power, Reeves would never be able to stand up to them. There must be a way to make the fight an even match. Guarding the floor are 3 armored and heavy armed androids. In addition to the reactors on the chest, they also have arms capable of taking the shape of weapon, thus adapting to any fighting style. At their full power, Reeves would never be able to stand up to them. There must be a way to make the fight an even match. Cybersecurity sector. Reeves notices the Michael Paxton office sign on the opposite side of the room, but the androids on that block prevent it from getting through. Reeves notices the Michael Paxton employee office's power panel. Employ power panel to unleash a surprise attack on the NX berserkers. Reeves inserts his arm into the panel and unleashes a gigantic EMP pulse, disrupting the android system. The arm, however, seems to no longer able to release energy. The panel has been overloaded, and Reeves no longer needs to use it. Employee offices. After the failure of the android, the offices are in disastrous condition, and some employees are seriously damaged. Cybersecurity sector. Employee after the failure.
Help me. What the hell is going on?
We need to get out of here. Cybersecurity sector. Reeves notices the Michael Paxton office sign on the opposite side of the NX berserkers. It seems that the huge EMP impulse has disoriented the three androids, who start shooting wild in all directions, damaging both offices and employees. Reeves takes advantage of the situation and, even if the arm can no longer emit rays, it is still able to deliver devastating blows, thus detaching an arm from one of the three and using it to fire a barrage of bullets, knocking them all out of action. Now that the three floor overseers have been riddled with their own weapon, Reeves is free to proceed. Cybersecurity sector. Defeated the three dangerous berserkers, Reeves enters Paxton's office. Cybersecurity room. The Paxton office consists of powerful Nexus PC and numerous photo screens, through which Paxton takes care of the protection and safeguarding of company data. The wall is studded with titles and honors, although, following the clash between Reeves and the androids, little is left on the walls except laser beam and bullet holes. Nexus PC. Office exit. Nexus PC. Office. Before exiting, Reeves must question Paxton about the hacker attack. Nexus PC. Paxton's state-of-the-art computer is located in the center of the office. It consists of terminal and a series of photo screens. Through this, Paxton can access the most important data of the Nexus. Paxton's state-of-the-art computer is located in the center of the office. It consists of terminal and a series of photo screens. Michael Paxton. Safe deposit box. Office exit. Save Michael Pack. The head of cybersecurity is huddled under his desk, frightened by the fight that has just happened. Reeves intimidates Paxton and questions him about the reason for his hacking attack on the net. Initially he seems reluctant, but, frightened by Reeves' threats, he finally reveals the truth. Paxton has been blackmailed by a sect called the Cult of Connection. As soon as the cyborg reveals this, however, his circuits immediately shut down. Having no other information, the detective must search the office for some useful clue. Paxton's body lies lifeless on the ground. Could it be the work of the cult he spoke of shortly before his death? Paxton's body lies lifeless on safe deposit box. The detective forcefully opens the box and takes out two objects. A date card that can be inserted into the PC and a fuse, very similar to the one inserted in the transporter on the lower floor, but with an H engraved on it. In the box there are other personal effects of Paxton, nothing that could be useful to the detective and, now, not even more to Paxton himself. In the box there are other Michael Paxton. Paxton's body lies lifeless on Nexus PC. Michael Paxton's body lies lifeless on the ground. Could it be the Nexus PC? Reeves inserts the card into the terminal and the screens show the position in which the cult is located, the Sanctuary. Reeves looks at the screen again and notices a new message, which reads, "Chase us." Even if he no longer possesses a human body, Reeves seems to feel a shiver down his spine. Reeves looks at the office exit. Nexus office and the detective leaves the poor Paxton's office and heads to the teleport. NXA floor. Power panel. Employee offices. After the failure of the android, the offices are in disaster. Cyber NX berserkers. Now that the free floor of NX teleport A. Reeves inserts the fuse into the panel and, on the cockpit screen, the teleport option appears. Reeves selects it, and he immediately dematerializes outside the headquarters, finding himself in the New Olympia teleport. New Olympia teleport. The docking point for the New Olympia city ship. The teleport is huge and features a variety of impressive vehicles, including cargo ships, the floating car, unknown NX device, the Adams Gate. Unknown the detective, having finally understood the true function of this device, thanks the Nexus to himself for having created such an effective teleportation device. Adams Nexus Roy 85. Reeves takes a look at the majestic aircraft. If this is just the airport, it doesn't dare to imagine what technological marvels are hidden behind the floating car. There is no more time to waste for Reeves. Now that he has received answers on the real perpetrators, it is time to go and pay them a surprise visit. Successful escaping Nexus City, Reeves leaves the beautiful yet dangerous New Olympia to head to the sanctuary. This temple is the main place of worship of a sect known as the Cult of Connection, which used Paxton to launch an attack on the net, but no one knows why they committed such an act of terrorism. Reeves feels he is one step away from the truth, but will he really be ready to face it and come out unscathed? Sanctuary Porch. The Temple of the Cult of Connection consists of huge porch. While the architecture is reminiscent of that of the temples of ancient Greece, the materials of which it is made are extremely modern. The columns rise imposing, while a door, decorated with strange luminous symbols, constitutes the entrance to the mysterious sanctuary. Portal of a Connection. Loyal of a Connection. Leaning against a column there's a cyborg in a black dressing gown. He informs the detective that to get the palm, he must go to the Elysium Gardens, showing himself enthusiastic to meet a new adept of the cult. The cyborg reveals to Reeves that he is about to make the connection, and that he has been waiting a long time for this moment. The detective is increasingly confused about the nature of the cult, but is eager to get to the bottom of the matter. The cyborg reveals to Reeves that he is about to make the connection, and that he has been waiting a long time for this moment. Portal of a Connection. The porch is separated from the inside of the structure by a mammoth steel door, on whose surface there are numerous symbols of luminescent blue. It seems that it is not possible to access it, but the detective notices a panel next to the entrance. The porch cult's contract path for the Elysium. Cult's contract. The panel near the entrance has the following inscription. New followers will have to obtain the access palm to purify themselves. Only afterwards will they be able to sign a contract with the cult. The panel near the entrance has the following inscription. New followers will have to obtain path for the Elysium. Intent on obtaining the access palm. Reeves follows the path and reaches the Elysium Gardens. Elysium Gardens. The majestic garden of a sanctuary is one of the most natural places left on the face of the earth. It is full of plants, flowers and fruit trees of rare beauty. The garden is also crossed by small brooks, and it is possible to hear the singing of small birds coming from the branches of the trees. At the center of this natural wonder is a statue of half man and half cyborg being. Fruits of Elysium. Elysium exit. Before returning to the entrance, Reeves must get the access palm. It must be somewhere in the garden. Fruits of Elysium. Reeves is completely enraptured by the natural riches of the garden. He is aware that in no other place on earth is it possible to find such wonders, and, remembering how it was the scent of flower, or the taste of fruit, he is seized by a strong sense of melancholy of nature that he will never be able to perceive as in the past. Reeves is completely enraptured by the natural riches of the garden's brooks. The detective stops to listen to the flow of brook, dipping a hand into it. Reeves remembers the sensation of freshness that hand in flesh and blood was able to perceive. Source of the artificials. Elysium Angels. Elysium Exit. Elysium Angels. The detective observes the small birds on the branches of the trees. He is amazed again, realizing that he is witnessing authentic specimens of robins, and not artificial animals, such as those of the neon market. Source of the artificials. The detective observes the statue in the center of the garden. It depicts a human body about to free itself from its cybernetic grafts. The base of the statue has a small recess, in which it is possible to place the palm of the hand. Reeves places his hand on the recess and perceives a series of impulses, as if the date inside his cybernetic hand has been completely rewritten. This must be the access palm. Now the detective can enter the temple. Observing the statue again, Reeves reflects on the nature of his artificial body, focusing on the immortality that cybernetic bodies and that the net have bestowed on human beings. Observing Elysium egg fruits of Elysium. Reeves is completely enraptured by the natural riches of the garden. He is a garden's brooks. The fruit Elysium. The path to the porch is blocked by two cyborgs wearing the same tunic as the faithful met at the entrance. The two cultists reveal to Reeves that they must test his will to undertake the path of connection, and, armed with lethal electrified blades, they attack the detective without giving him time to respond. Having passed some time since the MP arm was overloaded, the latter is now back to full power, and Reeves, after receiving a few sharp blows from the two cultists, releases a powerful electromagnetic discharge, knocking out the two opponents. Soon after, the detective returns to the porch. The Temple of the Cult of Connection consists of huge porch. While the architecture is reminiscent of that of the temples of ancient Greece, the materials of which it is made are extremely modern. The columns rise imposing, while a door, decorated with strange luminous symbols, constitutes the entrance to the mysterious sanctuary. Portal of the Connection Colonnade. The detective is amazed by the grandeur of the temple's columns, and approaches them. Touching them, Reeves perceives a strange sensation that pervades his circuits, as if a stream was constantly crossing the colonnade. The detective is amazed by the grandeur of the temple's portal of the connection. The porch is separated from the inside of the structure by a mammoth steel door, on whose surface there are numerous symbols of luminescent blue. It seems that it is not possible to access it, but the detective notices a panel next to the entrance. Cult's contract. Reeves places the access palm on the panel, where a new inscription has now appeared. Now you can begin your journey towards eternal connection. Meanwhile, the door begins to open. Reeves had never been a religious type. However dangerous this cult was, Reeves was particularly curious to understand its dogma and rituals. It can be said that this was the first baptism in Detective's life. Reeves had never been a reporter of a connection. The huge door opens in a solemn way, letting the detective glimpse the gloomy interior of the temple. The detective, as he enters it, looks more careful at the symbols on the door, and notices a particular inscription that reads, "Cutting of a net." Name of the connection. The name of the sanctuary looks like a gloomy place, with few light sources coming from some water basins on the sides of a huge hall. At the center of the ladder there is an imposing cybernetic structure, from which numerous cables emerge to which the faithful of the cult are connected, which are arranged around the huge machinery. Ark of Judgment. Chapel Stairway. Collective Consciousness. Chapel Stairway. At the end of the nave there is the chapel, where the altar of the temple is located. It seems adorned with particular frescoes and inscriptions. Before exploring it, it is worthwhile to carefully examine the rest of the nave. At the end of the nave there is the chapel, where the altar of the temple is located. It seems adorned with particular frescoes and inscriptions. Before explore Ark of Judgment. Cult Community. Ark of Cult Collective Consciousness. Chapel's collective. A huge structure in the center of the nave looks like a complete black sphere that emits numerous electrical discharges, and from the base, of which an infinite amount of brain cables protrude, to which the faithful of the cult surrounding it are connected. The huge structure in the center of the nave looks like a complete black sphere that emits numerous electrical discharge. Ark of Cult Community. Collective Conch. Chapel Collect Cult Ark of Judgment. Chapel at the end of the nave. Arkham on the right side of the nave, not far from the huge sphere, there is a terminal with the inscription Arkham Judgment on it. Probably constitutes a fundamental step on the way of a connection. On the right side of the cult community, among the numerous faithful seated around the sphere, there is also the cultist Reeves met in the porch, who seems to be about to connect to the facility.
Go
The
to the
entire
altar
community of
and take
cultists
the
is now
shell.
connected to the sphere, lying in a state of total unconsciousness. Reeves is extremely curious, and at the same time awed by the thought of what this ritual may represent. The entire community of cultists Arkham Judgment, on the right side of the nave, not far from the huge sphere the entire community of cultists is now connected to the sphere, lying in a collective consciousness. The huge structure in the huge chapel stairway. Thanks to the information from the cyborg, the detective decides to go to the altar and find out information about the shell and the cult in general. Sanctuary Chapel. The chapel of the sanctuary is full of frescoes, symbols and inscriptions that dot the walls around the altar, which are flanked by two torch holograms. On it there are a series of special helmets. What will their purpose be? Altar of the connection, chapel stairway. Before going down the stairway and returning to the nave, the detective must obtain a shell. Altar chapel frescoes, cult scroll, chapel stairway. Altar chapel frescoes. The walls of the chapel are covered with frescoes depicting variegated images linked to the cult. Men who connect with each other through cables, others who strip of their cybernetic body, still others who cut a web. Reeves has now begun to get an idea of the beliefs of the members of the sanctuary, but it is still very vague and confused. The walls of the chapel are covered with frescoes depicting variegated images linked to the cult. Men who connect with each other through cables, others cult scroll. A hologram is projected on the ceiling of the nave depicting a series of instructions for accessing Purgator, defined as the last fundamental step to the way of a connection. It is also indicated that it is possible to reach this place only through the use of the Ark of Judgment. The latter, however, is only accessible through a shell, obtainable among those on the altar. In the hologram there are numerous other commandments of this cult, but, even if interested in discovering the nature of a sanctuary, the detective has absolutely no intention of becoming a fanatic. In the hologram altar of a connection, Reeves grabbed one of the helmets by detaching it from the cable that tied it to the altar. Now all that remains is to go to the Ark of Judgment. Observing the large number of shells present on the altar, Reeves reflects on how much such a cult has attracted so many cyborgs in need of something beyond a lifetime in a shell of scrap metal and circuits. Observing the chapel, Reeves goes down the stairway and returns to the nave. Name of the connection. The name of the sanctuary looks Arkham Judgment, Chapel Stair, Arkham Cult Commune, the entire commune. Arkham. Once the shell is obtained, the terminal analyzes it, activating a teleportation system that instantly materializes the unsuspecting detective. Purgator. Reeves materializes in an underground arena. The large area, located in the space below the temple, is dotted with numerous holograms of blue torches on either side of the room, and is surrounded by huge metal statues depicting important members of the cult. Also around the battlefield, but in a raised space, there are the bleachers with numerous members of the cult, who witness the ordeal that Reeves is about to face. Observant cultists, Ark of Judgment. Before returning to the nave, Reeves must face the test of Purgator. Observant cultists. On the bleachers there are numerous cultists, who observe with devotion the ceremony that is about to take place. On the bleachers there are new sanctuary judges, arena obelisk, Purgator rules, Ark of Judgment, Purgator rules. In the center of the arena, at the top, a hologram is projected with the following inscription. Defeat the 3 supreme judges, and get the cable for the eternal connection. In the center of the arena, at the top, a hollow arena obelisk. At the bottom of the arena there is a huge obelisk, around which a disproportionate amount of brain cables are tangled. At the bottom of the arena sanctuary judges. Reeves, being almost sure of going to certain death, throws himself against the three judges. The first of them stabs Reeves' arm, who, however, extracts the tip and stabs the cultist's skull. The second rushes to charge towards Reeves, who manages to launch an EMP while complete overwhelming the opponent. Meanwhile, however, Reeves' arm is severed by the spear of the last judge who, immediately afterwards, runs towards the detective. The outcome now seems decided, but, with all the strength left in his body, Reeves grabs the spear with his remaining arm and stabs the last cultist, knocking him out. The three cultists lie on the ground of the arena. Reeves, no longer an ounce of energy in his body and without his arm, is still extremely respectful towards his dead adversaries, whom he considers the most valiant he has ever faced. The freak arena Reeves grabs the table and detaches it from the obelisk. Now he can teleport back to the nave. The detective has already gotten his award. Now it is time for him to connect with the collective consciousness. Purgator rules. The hologram now reads: once you have the cable, go back to the nave, and you too become part of the collective consciousness. Arc of Judgment. The terminal analyzes the brain cable and dematerializes the detective again, returning him to the nave. Name of the connection. The name of the sanctuary looks like a gloomy place, with few light sources coming from some water basins on the sides of a huge hall. At the center of the ladder there is an imposing cybernetic structure, from which numerous cables emerge to which the faithful of the cult are connected, which are arranged around the huge machinery. Arc of Judgment. Cult Community. The entire community of cultists is now connected to the sphere, the collective consciousness. Reeves wears the shell and connects to the sphere by the cerebral cable. He falls into a state of total unconsciousness, but his digital memory now appears to be a virtual space, where it intertwines with the memories of all other cultists. The detective, having had access to the memories of every other adept, finally discovers what is the ultimate purpose of a cult of connection: to free themselves from the net, seen by the cult as a cage for human minds, and then to embrace death and giving up eternal life within cybernetic envelopes. Before that, however, the cult gives the faithful the opportunity to live a collective experience of total sharing. Reeves, awakened and discovered the truth, now full understands the vision of the cult and, in part, also believes he shares it. Only one doubt pervades the detective's mind. Who is behind the creation of the cult? Reeves, Chapel Stair the Priest. Arc of Judgment. Cult Community. Arc of Cult Community. Entire community. Arc of Judgment. A tough fight against the cyborgs in Purgator was maybe the most deadly that Reeves has faced in all his years of service. Fortunately, the worst seems to be over. All that remains is to connect to the sphere. The tough fight. The pre-chapel stair. Reeves has already explored the altar thoroughly. It makes no sense to go back there again. Reeves has the priest. In front of the stairway of the chapel stands a mysterious figure, a hooded cyborg in a long red robe. Reeves approaches the cyborg with the intention of finally arresting him, but the priest, pointing his index finger at the detective, deactivates all his main functions, causing him to fall to the ground. Before the poor detective ceases to function, however, the priest pronounces the words, "Now you are free too, my brother." The detective recognizes the frequencies and intonation of the cyborg's voice. They are precisely identical to his. Somehow, therefore, someone created a digital copy of Reeves and gave birth to a new individual with a conscience of his own. Once this is understood, the detective shuts down and permanently ceases his vital functions.
Now you are free too, my brother.